Lily Hart knew a vacation was overdue when she found herself alphabetizing her home spice rack for the second time in a week. A library archivist by trade and a puzzle lover by temperament, she booked a late September site at Pine Hollow Campground. 4 nights of crisp air, s'mores, and absolutely no card catalogues. That, at least, was the plan. Pine Hollow sat in a horseshoe bend of birch and pine, 40 miles from the nearest cell tower, which Harold Boone, the 70-something owner, considered a selling point. The reception office doubled as a one-room lodge where campers swapped fishing reports and signed the camp logbook that occupied a place of honor on a barrel-top table. Bound in buckskin and smelling comfortingly of sap and smoke, the logbook was tradition. Entries dated back to when Harold's parents had run the place. Some visitors doodled bass and bluegills beside their names. Others penned elaborate accounts of lunar eclipses or children's first canoe rides. When Lily signed it that Monday afternoon, she added only her looping signature and a wobbly sketch of a marshmallow on a stick. "Welcome to our hollow," Harold said, voice gravelly from a lifetime of campfire stories. "Supposed to be a quiet week, just a handful of sites booked. Holler if you need anything." Harold's granddaughter May, 16 and perennially barefoot, directed Lily to Site 7. The spot faced Moon Mirror Lake, so glassy that gulls seemed to skate across it. Lily inhaled pine needles, pitched her little dome tent, and felt the tension of city noise drain from her shoulders. She met the rest of the week's campers before sundown. Mark and Dana Lee, a married pair of wildlife photographers, occupied Site 5 and had already hung camo pattern hammocks between 2 white pines. Dr. Imogene Watts, a retired history professor with silver braids and a laugh like chimes, had Site 4 and a vintage teardrop trailer that gleamed even in shadow. By the communal fire ring, the group roasted their suppers and traded small talk while May twirled an unlit sparkler. The first note of discord arrived with the night wind. Around 11, when campfire embers dulled to ruby pinpoints, Lily heard a splintering shriek sail across the lake. Geese? A fox? She peered from her tent and saw a bobbing light near the far bank, too white to be a lantern, too steady for a flashlight. It hovered, then blinked out. By morning, Lily half convincingly told herself she'd dreamed it. Breakfast was interrupted by Harold's shout from the lodge. "Who's been up to foolishness?" he bellowed loud enough to rouse chipmunks. The campers gathered to find him pacing before the barrel-top table, its buckskin ledger glaringly absent. May chewed her lip. "Grandad, maybe you moved it when you cleaned." "Cleaned? Schmeened. That book never leaves this room." He turned to the visitors. "Anyone see it last night?" Heads shook. Lily remembered passing the lodge on her way to brush her teeth at 10. The logbook had been right where it belonged, flopped open to a page sprinkled with sand grains. Mark suggested a prank. Imogene murmured about mischief-loving raccoons. Harold, though, looked stricken in a way that unsettled Lily more than the missing volume itself. That logbook was history. For Harold, it was family. The incident might have ended there, an annoying inconvenience, if not for the second night. At midnight, multiple voices shouted across the campground. Lily unzipped her tent and spotted Dana Lee running from the vault toilets toward the fire ring, camera swinging against her ribs. "It floated right through me," Dana gasped. "A woman, misty like breath on a lens. She was humming." Mark arrived seconds later, wide-eyed and oddly exhilarated. "Got 3 frames of her," he said, patting his camera as if it were a talisman. We're talking full-body apparition. Lily thought of the bobbing light she'd glimpsed the previous night. Perhaps it hadn't been geese or foxes. Perhaps. At dawn, everyone convened at Site 4, where Dr. Watts poured coffee from a dented percolator and announced she had heard distinct bootsteps circling her trailer at 2 a.m., though nothing appeared on inspection. Harold looked haggard. Never had hauntings in 50 years. Bad enough that dang book's gone, he muttered. Cozy mysteries seldom fall from the sky, Lily reflected, but they occasionally stroll around a bend in the woods. She began with questions. To Harold, could any former employee hold a grudge? I pay folks fair, he answered. To May, did the logbook include sensitive information? Credit card numbers, perhaps? May laughed. Only fish tallies and tall tales. Yet Harold's distress suggested more. Lily asked to see earlier volumes. Harold retrieved 2 predecessors from a lockbox, one covering the 1970s, another the 80s. She flipped through faded handwriting, hoping for patterns. What she found instead was a yellow newspaper clipping tucked into 1982. Prohibition cash still missing. Local legend persists. According to the article, a bootlegger named Gideon Sloane had run whiskey through Pine Hollow 90 years earlier and was rumoured to have buried a final shipment somewhere near Moon Mirror Lake just before repeal. Treasure for thirsty ghosts, the journalist joked. Had someone stolen the current logbook because of Gideon's legend? Maybe a camper stumbled on a note, a map, a code. Lily glanced at the 4 faces around her. Harold, May, Imogene, Mark, and Dana. Any of them might be fascinated by hidden history. Any could stage hauntings to scare off competition. The 3rd night brought thick fog that dulled the moon to a smudge. Lily armed herself with a thermos of tea, her phone's feeble flashlight, and a notebook. Habit died hard. She patrolled campground paths, crunching damp needles, listening. At 1:30, by the canoe rack, a figure in luminous white drifted through the mist. Lily's heartbeat tried to vault free. Yet the apparition's gait, not gliding but stepping, betrayed humanity. The ghost paused beside the rack, tugged something from beneath a canoe, then moved toward the lake. Lily followed at a crouch until her knee brushed a rusted bucket, clanged, and sent her quarry sprinting. In the scramble, Lily tripped on a root, splashing mud up her jeans, but she did glimpse the person's footwear. Modern hiking boots, size average. Morning revealed new pandemonium. May burst into Lily's campsite, waving a phone. Mark's photos are viral. He uploaded them at dawn before reception died again. Folks are freaking out. Harold's got 5 cancellations already. A cascade of cars departed before lunch. Only Lily, Dr. Watts, and the Lees remained, though the Lees had decamped to town to stock up on batteries. Harold's jaw was tight as pine bark. If this haunting nonsense doesn't quit, my livelihood's sunk. Lily admitted her suspicions to Dr. Watts while helping the professor polish her trailer's brass step. Imogene listened thoughtfully, eyes crinkling. A missing historical object, sudden spectral sightings, and a legendary lost cache, the trifecta, she mused. Have you considered motive? I think someone's searching at night, Lily said, describing the ghostly boot prints. The logbook probably held a clue, and the haunting is a smokescreen. Quite literally, given the fog, Imogene chuckled. She tapped her chin. Harold was in the office with me both nights of mischief. He's alibied. May was in her cabin with a sinus cold. That leaves our photographer couple and an untested librarian. She winked to show the accusation was affectionate. Let's test, then, Lily replied. They agreed to set a lure. Publicized that Harold had located an older, more detailed map of Pine Hollow's pre-campground days and intended to examine it in the lodge after dark. May, enlisted into the scheme and energized by cold medicine, stapled flyers to bulletin boards. Historic map viewing tonight, 9 p.m., all welcome. No such map existed, but the bait was cast. Dark settled early under quilted clouds. At 9 sharp, Lily, Imogene, and Harold sat conspicuously in the lodge porch with mugs of cocoa, chatting about weather fronts. Dana appeared first, lamenting that Mark was still sorting fog photos in their tent. She examined the flyers, feigned mild interest in the map, then excused herself. 10 minutes later, Mark ambled up, camera slung, and asked casual questions about archival paper preservation. Lily watched his eyes. Their brightness spiked when Harold said the map supposedly referenced property lines and maybe other things. By 10, campground silence returned. The trio inside the lodge waited 5 more minutes, then eased out the back door. May, stationed near the canoe rack, flashed a thumbs up. No one had passed her. "Photographer's sight," Lily whispered, and the 4 crept along the path. Dana's hammock swayed empty. Mark's tent flaps undulated in a faint breeze, but were likewise unoccupied. "Lights by the lake," May hissed. A white glow pulsed beyond a stand of birches, the same spectral radiance that had spooked campers earlier. Lily motioned the group to circle wide. They approached unseen until they could peer between trunks. Mark Lee knelt at the water's edge, headlamp wrapped in a gauzy scrap of mosquito netting to diffuse the beam into ghostly shimmer. Beside him lay the camp logbook, half buried in mud, its pages bristling with sticky notes. Dana crouched over a shallow hole, trowel in hand. "Nothing but wet roots," Dana whispered. "Keep digging," Mark urged. "The note said, 'beneath the watchful mirror.' This is the only spot the lake's surface is visible through the birches. It has to be here." Lily stepped forward. "Gideon Sloane's stash isn't in that muck, Mark." Dana shrieked. Mark sprang up, brandishing the headlamp like a weapon, until he recognized Lily and the others. His shoulders sagged, immediately more worried about his reputation than any alleged ghost. "It was a harmless caper," he said, hands raised. "We only scared people a little." "And stole property a lot," Harold rumbled. Mark, cornered by guilt and 4 stern gazers, launched into confession. 2 nights earlier, flipping through the logbook after midnight to jot moon phases, he had discovered a penciled margin note apparently by a camper from the 1990s. "Sloane's barrels still sleep beneath the watchful mirror. Dig when the owl dips." To Mark, the watchful mirror read like the lake, and owl dips suggested night. Thrilled by the prospect of unearthing century-old contraband and the handsome auction price vintage bottles might fetch, he had spirited the logbook away, convinced Dinah to help fake hauntings, and cloaked their nocturnal excavations in LED theatrics. The first night's floating light was his headlamp suspended from a fishing rod. The misty woman was Dana in a poncho lined with glow sticks. The bootsteps around Imogene's trailer were Mark himself making sure no one left their tents. "Why not just ask Harold's permission to look?" Imogene chided. Mark scuffed the dirt. "If we struck out, we'd look like gullible fools. Better to keep it quiet." May snorted. "So instead you look like grand larceny fools." Dana's shoulders slumped. "I was in deep after he took the book. Didn't know how to stop." Lily retrieved the buckskin volume, wiping sludge from its cover. She turned to the page with the margin note, shining her flashlight. The graphite letters were clear, but so too was an archivist's trained eye for handwriting. Lily recalled seeing that exact script in the 1982 clipping, the journalist's signature. She flipped to earlier pages and found another bit of identical handwriting. Best walleye fishing here, Jim Stacy, Elmhurst Tribune. An epiphany clicked. I know why you haven't found anything, Lily said. Jim Stacy wrote the newspaper article I found in the older book. He was notorious for embellishing history. If he wrote this note, it's probably a prank, a way to stoke local legend for tourist draw. Mark's face drained colour. You're saying you were duped by a reporter's storytelling? Lily shut the book with a gentle thud. Like many good ghost stories, it was manufactured flavour. Silence spread except for frogs belting baritone croaks. Finally, Harold sighed, half amusement, half relief. Well, you two can pack up tonight or first thing in the morning, but you're gone, and I'm calling the sheriff about the theft, though I'll mention you cooperated in recovery. Dinah accepted the verdict with watery eyes. Mark nodded, chastened. Back in the lodge, Harold set the rescued logbook under a desk lamp to dry. May brewed cocoa round 2, and Imogene produced a tin of shortbread as if by sleight of hand. Lily warmed her palms on the mug, feeling the gentle glow that follows a mystery's resolution. Can't thank you enough, Harold said. That book is my parents' voices, my childhood. Every fish weighed on that scale over there. I'd sooner lose the lake. How about a new safeguard? Lily suggested. Glass display case during daylight, lockbox at night. And scanned copies, Imogene added. Digitize the pages before more reporters or photographers take liberties. Harold smiled at the assembled brainstorm. Look at you townfolk turning librarians and professors into camp partners. The next morning dawned with sky the colour of honey and a breeze cool enough to require sweaters. The Lees departed before sunrise under tacit truce, promising reimbursement for any damage. Sheriff Carver spent 20 minutes taking statements, scratched his chin, and muttered something about city slickers chasing booze instead of just buying some. By noon, Pine Hollow felt itself again, quiet, pine-scented, alive with chickadee chatter. Lily and Dr. Watts took the aluminum rowboat onto Moon Mirror Lake, oars dipping rhythmically. From the centre, the campground appeared quaint, multicolour tents dotting earth like toadstools, lodge chimney trailing cheerful smoke. You'll have to come back next year, Imogene said, adjusting her straw cloche. Harold might name a cabin after you. I'm not sure Cabin Lily fits the rustic theme, Lily laughed, but I could volunteer cataloguing duties, nothing like a vacation that ends with more archiving. They let the boat drift. The water, truly mirror still, reflected the shoreline so perfectly that birches seemed to pierce 2 skies. Lily considered the phrase watchful mirror and shivered pleasantly. Even solved, a legend retained power. As they rowed home, an immature barred owl swooped low, wings silent, then lifted into treetops. Imogene tipped her hat. There goes our owl dip. Gideon Sloane's whiskey will have to keep sleeping, Lily answered. She inhaled pine and distant wood smoke, a fragrance infinitely better than old ledger paper. Some mysteries belonged on shelves, others belonged in the hush of forests, kept alive by story, glowing softly in fog like headlamps wrapped in mosquito netting. Back on shore, Harold hailed them for lunch, grilled cheese and tomato soup from May's camper kitchen. The logbook, freshly cleaned, lay on a stand near the lodge doorway, turned to a blank page. Lily chose a pen and wrote, September 29th, recovered 1 beloved logbook, dispelled 1 counterfeit haunting, gained new friends. Pine Hollow remains magical, ghosts optional. She underlined magical twice, blew on the ink, and closed the cover with satisfaction. Some vacations, Lily reflected, didn't reduce stress so much as redirect it, funneling ordinary worries into extraordinary puzzles. And that, for a wander-minded archivist, was the most relaxing getaway of all.